Well, good morning, everybody out there in internet land. Okay, let's be perfectly honest about it. It's been 1 week. The withdrawal is more than you could possibly take. And I understand. I get it. Because once you start listening to me, you just don't want to leave. You don't want to quit. It's like, I got to have my fix. When is he coming back on the air? It's absolutely ridiculous. I understand. I am that much of an addiction. But you have managed to survive this long. You've made it. And now here we are. We're back. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. And this, my friends, is Front Porch Brunch. That point in the week where you finally get the chance to sit down with somebody and talk about the news. And who better to talk to about it than me, your ever-loving, always humble, positively pleasant Front Porch Conservative. So glad to see you. Ha 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 ha! My girl Millicent. She's out there. Welcome, my love. Mwah. So glad to see you. So glad to see everybody. Oh my goodness, what a week it has been in news. Crazy out there. Totally crazy. Oh goodness, so glad to have you here this morning. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome once again to this great gathering of people who love to talk about the news. And man, what a week. Holy cow, what a week in news it has been. We have got so much to get into. But, first of all, Millicent, darling, I have to thank you for last night. It was amazing and extraordinary and more than my poor heart could ever hope for. So, from one man to one woman, you were amazing. Ugh. And now everybody who's watching this live stream is going, what the hell did these two do? It was all very... Uh-oh. Yes. I love you. I so love you. Yes. No, thank you for stopping by. You're my first person here this morning. So yeah, it's kind of... Oh, this is going to be so much fun. Oh, I cannot believe that we have now hit the month of August. It is just, I mean, Millicent, what's the date down where you are in Australia? Is it August the 6th already? Is it August 6th? Give me it. Oh my goodness. Welsh, my brother. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For those of you not familiar with this young man, he runs probably one of the best podcasts out there. You need to be checking out his stuff. He is absolutely gloriously magnificent in an interview. Okay, so yeah, I cannot believe it's August. I cannot believe it's August. But yeah, it's just it's amazing. It's August, and this year is just absolutely flying by. We are now on the back half of the year. Just incredible. I am doing well. I am doing very well, sir. I am tired from my week's endeavors. I am tired from working my regular job. I did 5 videos this week, and it's just like, oh my god, about to wear me out. But I love it. I'm still doing it, and I'm enjoying myself very, very much. So, but thank you for asking, Welsh. I genuinely appreciate that, sir. It is indeed. Well, here in the States, it's August the 5th. In Australia, or where Welsh is at, it's August the 6th, if I'm not, because I think Welsh and Millicent are both on the same part of the calendar. I think it's August 6th for both of you guys. But yeah, I mean, and now as an American, and we're just kind of chatting around, waiting for folks to get into the room. As an American, this is a unique time of the year for someone like me, because this is the month when all college football programs, American football, Millicent, not that thing you call football in Australia. No, American football. The only kind of football there should be in the world, by the way. I love you, but let's get together straight. When American colleges and universities, when their football teams report for camp, which means that at the end of this month, mostly on or around Labor Day weekend here in America, college football is back. And I've always said from the start of this live stream that people are going to find out parts about my life and my personality and my loves and my interest and everything else. Well, this is one of those moments. I love college football. I love the rivalries. I love the pageantry. I love the fans. I love the passion. I love everything about it. Now, for those of you, um, well, now hold on though. Well, no, Millicent, you've got a form of football down there that as a red-blooded American boy, I am all in support of, and I am here for it. Australian lingerie football, and let me tell you something: those chicks play tough. That's all I'm saying. Because that's some football that I can really watch. Even though it's not American football, Australian lingerie football, I am down with. Okay, just saying, y'all got something great going on there. But now I'm going to get into all kinds of trouble for that one. We here in America, and I'd say that to the benefit of our international viewers, all two of you. We here in America, it is, yeah, Australian lingerie football. I will send you a link sometime, my dear. You will get a kick out of this. Yeah. I am not BSing you. It's Australian lingerie football. I am not kidding. Your country is known for any number of great things that you contribute to the world. May I say, that may be in the top 5. Just saying. But getting back to here in the States, I've always loved college football. I have loved college football ever since I was a very young teenager. And without doxing myself, there is one college football team that I am madly in love with, and I have been ever since I was a little boy. And I'll give you a recommendation for a movie, and you'll begin to understand my love for them. Go watch the film We Are Marshall. Marshall. We Are Marshall. It's a film from about 16, 17 years ago now, starring Matthew McConaughey, Matthew Fox. It is the story of the tragedy and the triumph that is Marshall University college football. And knowing all the facts involved with that film, it is probably as well done a representation of what actually happened as you will ever want to see. And I really, really do recommend it to people. So, anyway, now the month of August for me is always a great month because that is, oh yeah, it is. It's truly a good film. It's really a good film. And everything that happened in that film, Welsh, like I said, there's no way you could absolutely take every actual event and put it on film in an hour and a half. I will give the producer Basil Iwanek and the director McGee a ton of credit. They did everything they possibly could to make that film as accurate as possible, even with slight minor variations to it. And given that that film is so close to home for someone like me, when I watched it, I'm not gonna lie, I cried. Oh, it's a movie about college football. You can't cry in college football. Yeah, you can. When you watch this movie and know that this is a true story, yeah. Yeah, if you don't shed a tear, you ain't got a heart. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, it's so yeah, August is always a special month for me, especially for everything I get to look forward to. And man, is not August a special month as far as the news? Oh my God. Just when you think it can't get any more interesting in the world, then last week happens and it's just crazy. So, as everybody's starting to filter into the room, I'll go ahead and get into our first story. And if you were here last week, the technical problems that I had, which about made me crazy. And I think I've got them worked out. I'm going over to my other monitor. Everything seems to be working so far. This cheap surplus Ukrainian equipment that I'm working with seems like it's holding up. So Operation String and Tin Can is in full effect. So spread it out, send the word out, give some tweets, give some shout outs, tell your friends to come on in, and let's go ahead and get into our first story, which I call Big Daddy Devon and the Bidens. And oh man, this is a story that is rich on so many elements. We have, yeah, honey, the Chinese had it absolutely right. Absolutely right. We are living in interesting times. So let's get into the story of Big Daddy Devon and the Bidens. Now, as you know, if you have been watching the news or maybe seeing the headlines, um, Devon Archer, Hunter Biden's former business partner at Rosemont Seneca, a Democrat's Democrat, a fellow who, I used to have a different opinion about him, but having listened to him this week in various formats, I'm starting to revise my opinion of him. I really am. And not because of what trouble he's causing for the Bidens, but just on a personal level, I'm starting to revise my opinion of him. Um, very interesting, very interesting man. Now, for those of you who have maybe seen the headlines, but you don't necessarily know what's going on, Devon Archer, as I said, is Hunter Biden's former business partner. And the House Republican Oversight Committee, chaired by James Comer, Republican from Kentucky, has been trying to get Devon Archer to come in and testify in front of the committee about what he knows as it relates to Hunter Biden, as it relates to Joe Biden, as it relates to the family businesses and everything else. Because the Republicans have always felt that Devon Archer was a key to understanding how all this worked, because there's been a lot of accusation going back and forth that Hunter was the front man or the bag man of the operation, and that somehow he was funneling money to Joe, but no one could quite figure out how it works or what it means, etc. Okay. Okay. So that leads us to where we were at, say, last weekend. So finally, after much going back and forth, Devon Archer agreed to come in and testify on Monday, July 31st. 2 days before that, the Justice Department of the United States did something extraordinary that no one ever thought they would ever be willing to do, and that is this. A headline from the New York Post: Department of Justice tries to jail key Hunter Biden witness Devon Archer on eve of congressional testimony. Now, for those of you who may not know what the backstory is on this, and it's a fairly fascinating one, by the way. Back in 2018, flagrant, my dear fellow, we lift a cup of whatever this brew is I have in my hand. We lift a cup of it in your general direction. We say, hail to thee, and welcome to Front Porch Brunch. We're just about to get into our first story of the morning, called Big Daddy Devon and the Bidens. So for those of you maybe out there that don't know the backstory on Devon, I'm going to set this up with a clip from Robert Barnes, one of my favorite people. And Robert was talking with Viva Fry and had the following to say as it related to the backstory on Devon. So let me play this for you. Really? Hang on, folks. Let's see if I can. No, I don't want to talk about lobsters for life. Good Lord. Hang on. I think this thing's about to boot up. Maybe, possibly. And no, it's not. It's not you. It's not you, Millicent. I promise. Okay, I'm going to stop it right there before my cheap surplus Ukrainian equipment gives me any more trouble. Here's the backstory. Hunter and Devon Archer were in business together. Well, in 2018, a federal court ruled that Devon was guilty on a couple of felony counts of defrauding a Native American tribe. Well, Devon, under the American legal system, had the right to appeal, which he did. Okay, cool, no problem. That's great. Well, um, in the 5 years hence, okay, Devon has not served one day of his 1 year jail sentence. Now, you can argue whether that's right or wrong. That's fine. But he's got the right to do that under American law. He's been making appeals, etc. Well, last 2 weeks ago, a federal court said, no, the sentence is valid. The verdict was valid. You're going to be required to fulfill your 1 year sentence. 2 days, 2 days before Devon Archer was to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee hearing, the DOJ went into a federal court on Saturday morning and filed a motion requesting that the judge issue a date certain when Devon Archer would report to jail. Now, DOJ says, oh, no, 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 no. We didn't mean for him not to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee. Obviously, we want to see him participate in the process. Uh-huh. Yeah, right. Yeah, nobody's buying that BS. Okay. They were basically tapping Devon Archer on the shoulder and going, hey, dude, we're right here. We're watching what you're doing. Yeah. Uh-huh. They're sending a message. So Devon Archer goes in, testifies in front of the House Oversight Committee, and he's in there for 4 hours. I mean, this was a good long chat they were having. And what cracked me up the most was when Devon Archer was done, he had no sooner left the committee hearing room. The Democrats were flying out almost as fast as Devon Archer left, flying out to find the first microphone they could get in front of and talk about what they felt Devon Archer said. Not what he said, what they felt he said. Which brings us to my new favorite Democrat, Dan Goldman, um, who we here on the front porch affectionately refer to as Representative Goldilocks. So old Goldilocks gets in front of a microphone and says the following. Listen to this. Oops. Let's back this up and start over, shall we? Come on, darling. Hang on, folks. Cheap surplus Ukrainian equipment's giving me some problems here. I'm going to restart this. There we go. Now, you catch that, folks? Okay, I know, guys. My cheap surplus Ukrainian equipment is just, and I apologize. The audio should be coming through. Did you guys? All right. Did anybody hear what he just said? Let's start from there. Really? Again with this? I don't get it. Ugh. Okay. Apologies in advance. Somehow I got to find some way to do better with this. I got to talk to somebody. But anyway, Goldilocks Goldilocks is out there basically saying, well, look, I mean, of course Joe Biden's going to talk to Hunter Biden's business associates. I mean, what's he going to do? Be rude? I mean, what's he going to do? Um, you know, not say hello. There's no indication here that Joe Biden was talking about, business dealings, etc. None whatsoever. Of course he's just saying hello. Of course he's being polite. Of course, whatever. What'd you expect? He's the dad. He's gonna say something. Well, yeah. Okay. Show of hands. Does anybody really believe that Joe Biden was just sitting there being polite? Oh, that's a good question. Hang on a minute. That might be my problem. Hang on, Flagrant. You might be onto something here. Let me look at this. Because I'll swear. All right. That might be my problem. Let's try that again when the next time it comes up. Well, yeah, no, it wasn't that Joe was saying hello. Joe was there talking to Hunter's business partners. Headline from the New York Post: Joe's deep involvement in Hunter's business with China, the Russians, and the Ukrainians revealed Devon Archer's full damning testimony. First son Hunter Biden's former business partner Devon Archer told lawmakers this week that Ukrainian natural gas firm Burisma brought the political scion on its board so that people would be intimidated to mess with them legally. Archer also revealed that then Vice President Joe Biden met twice with his son's shady post-Soviet business partners at DC's Cafe Milano, not once as previously reported, according to the transcript of a 4-hour deposition released Thursday by the House Oversight Committee. These and other revelations blow new holes in President Biden's claim that he never discussed business with his now 53-year-old son as House Republicans move closer to launching an impeachment inquiry. Archer extensively discussed the value Hunter brought to Burisma as part of the Biden family brand, and said he demonstrated to clients at least 20 times his ability to put his dad, second highest U.S. official, on speakerphone. Under questioning from Democrat lawmakers, Archer mused that, quote, I think Burisma would have gone out of business if it hadn't been the brand attached to it. I think that's why it was able to survive as long as it did. He added under interrogation from Representative Dan Goldman. I don't understand. How does that have an impact? Goldman asked. Well, the capabilities to navigate DC that they were able to, basically in the news cycle, and I think that preserved them from, a longevity standpoint. But how did it work? The Democrat pressed. Because people would be intimidated to mess with them, responded Archer, clarifying legally when Goldman asked in what way. Archer told the House Oversight Committee that most of the $3.5 million wired in February 2014 by former First Lady of Moscow, Yelena Baturina, who attended at least one dinner with then VP Biden and his son, was in turn transferred to a firm co-owned by Archer and Hunter Biden after an initial receipt by an entity that Biden defenders insisted was solely controlled by Archer. So, yeah, you begin to understand what's going on here. This was purely and simply access peddling. That's what the Biden brand represented. That's what Hunter was selling to everybody. He was selling access to Joe. And it explains so many different things. I mean, I have heard defenders of the Bidens in one form or another make something of a unspoken argument. And that is that, well, Joe wasn't discussing business. And the unspoken part of it is when they say, yeah, I agreed. Absolutely agreed, Millicent. It is bad. It's horrible. It's horrible what was being done, but done in such a uniquely sophisticated way. I mean, the game is as old as time, but how they did it was slick. I'll give the Bidens credit for that much. But yeah, I mean, it's horrible what they were doing, but what they did was, fairly simple. You know, Hunter was the front man, in some cases the bag man. Joe was the prize. And it goes on to explain a lot, awful lot. I want to play or show you a tweet, and thank God this doesn't involve audio. But this is from a young man named Brian Dean Wright, who's a podcaster. He's the host of the The Wright Report. I want you to listen to this. This is from his tweet. I saw this while I was working at the CIA. It's the same story of every corrupt politician. The family, in this case the Bidens, had a bagman, Hunter, who offered up access to the big guy, Joe. The big guy knows about every one of the bagman's deals and every client. But the big man rarely involves himself in the weeds of the thing. Instead, he simply shows up in phone calls, personal letters, fancy dinners. He says nice things about the bagman, Hunter, smartest guy I know, and the signal is clear to the client. The big guy is for sale. Settle up with the bagman. Payment is rendered in ways that give the big guy plausible deniability. If anyone gets a whiff of the deal, either the bagman takes the blame or the big guy muzzles the inquiring mind. I've seen it abroad repeatedly. I just never thought I would see it happen here with the President of the United States. Yet, here we are, undeniable corruption in the White House. But our big guy doesn't need to bury the story. He's got a party, a corporate press, and controlled DOJ doing it for him. I'm so angry and so fearful for our republic. And I tell you what, Brian Dean Wright is absolutely correct. And it's something that a lot of people have pointed to. Joe, the unspoken argument is, well, they weren't talking about business. It's not like they're sitting there talking about how many cubic feet of gas that Burisma was extracting from the ground in Ukraine, or not talking about shipping routes or, gas pipelines or anything else. Joe Biden wasn't talking about the minutia of the business that related to Burisma, and that would be absolutely correct. But on the other side of that coin, Joe Biden didn't need to talk about the in the weeds stuff about Burisma. That wasn't his function in this whole thing. His function was to be the shiny. His function was to be the prize at the end of the tunnel. Okay. All you've got to do to get to the shiny and get to the prize is you got to go through the bag man, or the front man in this case, which is Hunter Biden. The Bidens knew exactly what they were selling. They were selling access to Joe, and what Joe may or may not be able to do with a phone call or a email or a letter, or I don't know, a conversation. Let's say a conversation like I don't know. How about this one?
For loan guarantees, and I went over.
Hang on, folks.
Supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to the press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said, I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was 6 hours. I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
And you begin to understand now why people like me get mad about what's going on. It's conversations like that. That's what was being sold to Hunter's business partners. That very thing right there. What Joe could do from his position as vice president. Oh, yeah, he is. Well, no, that's one way of describing him. The best description that I've heard is street thug. Joe Biden is definitely not the sharpest knife in the case. He definitely ain't the brightest bulb in the box. Translation, he's definitely not the smartest guy in the room, but he is a guy that knows how to intimidate you on the streets. He's a thug. He's a well-dressed thug in $500 suits and good haircuts and fancy cars and nice houses, but he's a thug. He's a street-level thug. And he knows how to use every tactic available to him for the preservation of himself and his family and their interests. Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. It just so happens that this piece of crap got caught. Yeah, Corn Pop was set up. Yeah. And he's been doing crap like this for 50 years. I mean, not that I've looked into it that deeply, but I've heard reports that he was basically corporate Credit Card America's front man for years when he was in the U.S. Senate, because most credit card companies are incorporated out of Delaware. Why? Because Delaware has some of the loosest corporate laws in the country, and it's to their benefit to set up there. Well, who's going to protect them? One of the U.S. senators, and it just happened to be old Lunchbox Joe. I'm telling you, the Bidens have been doing this kind of stuff for years. But the level of scrutiny gets higher and higher the further up the food chain you go. Now, I mean, there's just stuff that's just amazing. Now, I thought, by about midweek that, the whole Devon Archer thing was going to be over when, all the news died down and the transcript got released, which, by the way, the transcript is out there now, which ought to teach old Goldilocks, Dan Goldman, a lesson. Don't be careful what you ask for, because he's like, release the transcript, man. Let people see what Devon Archer said. On Thursday, Jamie Comer was like, okay, here you go. The transcript of the 4-hour testimony is out there. So, I'll try and remember to leave a link to it in the description of this live stream when we're all said and done. But, the argument that says that the Republicans are spinning this thing. Oh, no. No. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, the level of corruption in the American government right now, who knows? Flagrant, you might be absolutely right, dude. I remember that crime bill back in 94. Looking back on it, there's a lot of things about it I didn't like then. There's a lot more I don't even like now. But yeah, it's amazing to me. It really is. I do want to play one other clip from this week. Like I said, just when I thought that the testimony in front of the House Oversight Committee was going to be the big news, oh no, Big Daddy Devon went on to do something else. He sat down with Tucker Carlson. And I tell you what, Tucker Carlson going to Twitter has been a godsend for so many different reasons. First of all, it's a personal godsend to him. he can do more or less whatever he wants. He doesn't have Fox News executive producers or Fox News, corporate people looking over his shoulder, getting in his grill, or trying to tell him and his people what he can and cannot, publish or talk about or whatever. I mean, Tucker's done interviews now with Devon Archer, Ice Cube. He's doing some amazing, genuinely amazing work on Twitter, which, by the way, is starting to bleed over because there are other people that are seeing what Tucker Carlson's doing, and now they're going to start doing stuff on Twitter. I read last night that Roseanne Barr, who has been more or less blacklisted by official Hollywood, probably one of the most legendary stand-up comedians in America, television star, author, any number of things, she's going to start her own show and put it on Twitter. And I was like, holy cow, this is going to get good. And I don't know if anybody saw it last night, but I was tweeting for all my heart was worth out to Roseanne Barr. I don't know if she's ever going to see it, but I was like, Roseanne, you've got to sit down with Chrissy Mayer. You two girls have got to talk to each other, because that would be an interview that would just be epic and for the ages. But Roseanne Barr is going to start doing something on Twitter. So I say that Tucker being on Twitter is a godsend. There's that aspect of it, but there's also the other aspect of it for people like you and me, that we can have unfiltered conversations, and listen to people as they're actually talking, which gets to a clip that I want to play. Devon Archer sat down for a 2-part interview with Tucker Carlson. The second part of the interview posted on Friday, and since it has posted, it's gotten about like 12 million different views. No, I'm sorry. Hang on. Let me look at the stat real quick. Hang on. Got it written down here on another monitor. 9 million, I believe it is. Make sure about this. Yeah, here it is. 9 million views. This interview was posted August the 4th, and it's gotten upwards of like 9 million views since 8:15 the other morning. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And now the fact that she's on Twitter, or will soon be on Twitter, I think is great. Ladies and gentlemen, they can't stop corporate media anymore. They can't. They can't do it. Right? When I say I misspoke. My apologies. They can't stop free speech anymore. Corporate media can't shut it down anymore. There are too many venues and too many avenues out there where people are finding places to let their voices be heard and let their ideas be, talked about. Twitter, although it's not as good as it could be yet, it's getting there. You got Twitter, you got Rumble, you got Odyssey, you got Rockfin, you got BitChute, there's all kinds of places where it's getting out, and I think it's just awesome. I really do. But I want to play this clip, and it runs for maybe a minute and a half, so I apologize for the length, but I definitely think it is worth listening to. So that sets it up. Let me play the following.
There was all this pressure to fire Shokin from this, the larger community, and then he was fired, and then somehow Burisma was let off the hook. I mean, that's what the story was.
And Joe Biden, of course, was the driving force behind his firing.
Yeah, he was involved in that. There's obviously video.
Involved. I mean, Biden bragged at Council on Foreign Relations. They had $1 billion coming from IMF, and I said, if you don't fire this man, you're not getting $1 billion.
Right. But it's I think on this one, it certainly wasn't made clear to us at the board level, that there was that was a favor to be done. The narrative, I don't know the narrative, and I don't want to, I don't want to lead anyone down that kind of path. That's what happened, because I don't know the narrative.
But Joe Biden knew that his son was on the board of this company that was being hassled by the prosecutor whose firing he was calling for.
Right.
Yeah. And this took place 3 years after he sent you a letter saying, thanks for all the work you're doing with Hunter. So clearly he would know this would benefit the family.
Right. I don't want to get it, but the narrative was that Shokin was already taken care of. That was the popular narrative. That's the only thing that
That he was already on his way out.
Exactly. That was the narrative that was fed to the board.
Okay, so you were told when Shokin got fired that like it had nothing to do with it.
No, we were told that was bad and we don't want a new prosecutor. Shokin was taken care of. So it's very, I mean, this is not like, checkers. This is multiple dimensions here. So a popular.
This is like Connect Four.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like, no, I think in this particular case, it's pretty high stakes and pretty sophisticated. So the narrative that I was told was that's just, I've said it under oath and I'll say it again. That was the narrative.
That was the narrative. Did you ever, were you aware, do you have knowledge that Hunter spoke to his dad about Burisma?
Do I have knowledge?
Yes. Do you know that Hunter spoke to his dad about Burisma? Did you ever see them talk about it?
Now, this is a good question. And the reason being, this goes back to what I said. There's an unspoken argument, or spoken, depending on who it is, among Democrats that, Hunter, Joe never talked to Hunter about Burisma, yada, yada, yada. It's not like he's talking about all the technical stuff. Listen to this answer.
About it, hear them talk about it was
I've never, Biden. No, I don't have knowledge of that, though I'd assume it.
You would assume it.
Right. I would assume it in a general sense of travel and that kind of thing. But on, like I've told a lot of people in the past, there was not business content conversations. It was the idea of signals and influence. The prize is enough in speaking or hearing or knowing that you have that proximity to power. No one is so unsophisticated that's been in politics for 50 years
right.
that Hunter is going to talk about, the last quarter's, how many billion cubic meters of gas we pumped out of the earth.
Right.
So it's just, I think a lot of the narrative gets caught up on, over speculation of these conspiracy theories that are just not true. I think
that's not the way it actually
It just
works.
doesn't work like that.
So it's enough to be sitting at a meal at Lake Como with your new Ukrainian friends, and your dad happens to call, let's put him on speaker.
That would be I think that's enough. That's the
Absolutely amazing. And it's just so, it's so true. That's exactly what the Bidens were doing. Hunter's the front man or the bag man, depending on the situation, and Joe is the prize. And Devon Archer says it best. I mean, you haven't been in politics for 50 years to, not realize what was going on here. To not realize what was happening, what they were selling. Access. And I go back to Brian Dean Wright's tweet. The bag man is Hunter, the prize is Joe. When Joe makes statements like, he's the smartest guy I know, he's sending the signal to the clients. Pay him, to get to me. I'll tell you what, people can say whatever they want to, but this week's testimony by Devon Archer on Capitol Hill, and then that interview with Hunter Biden might be the turning point in this whole saga of what happens to Joe Biden because of his son's business dealings overseas. Now, I'm not saying that, Joe Biden's going to be convicted and thrown out of office. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think the pressure is going to get ratcheted up even more on the Democrats to get rid of Joe Biden before the 2024 election. I genuinely believe that in my heart of hearts. Now, whether it actually happens or not, I don't know. But there's no way that people in the upper echelons of the Democratic Party can look at what's happening to Joe and Hunter right now and not come to the conclusion, look, we know we're going to have enough trouble against Donald Trump. We don't need this. And Millicent, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think Twitter's going to have trouble with their rebrand, but as far as being a platform where people can talk, I think that's happening. They won't be able to run him Yeah, I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree. You know, like I said, to me, there's only one thing left that's got to be proven at this stage, and that's the transfer of the money. In other words, can anybody show that money from these foreign companies, these foreign entities, were wired from their accounts, wound up going into and through this labyrinth of businesses, corporations, LLCs, whatever, and then wound up in an account that is owned and accessed by Joe Biden? Well, what if he didn't take the money out of there? That's not the issue. If Joe Biden is an owner on the account and can access the money, even if he never took it out of there, what you've got is a trail going from foreign corporations, foreign businesses, etc., through an elaborate network, winding up in an account owned by Joe Biden. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is stone cold proof of access selling, and bribery. Because remember that FD 1023 form. Oh, that is absolutely true. I'd forgotten about that point, but you're right. They did share a bank account together. So if any of that money coming in is found to be from overseas, they've got Joe Biden dead to rights. And when I say dead to rights, keep in mind there are two courts, and I use that term somewhat loosely. There are two courts right now where this is all playing out. There's the court of Congress, and then there's the court of public opinion. Now, I've said before and I'll say again, I do not want to see this matter turned over to the Justice Department as a special prosecutor. Okay? Because first of all, nothing will happen. The Justice Department is eminently corrupt right now. They'll sweep this thing under the rug and nothing will happen. Hell, they're trying to sweep, the gun conviction and the tax evasion charges on Hunter under the rug with a sweetheart, immunity deal that covers him for all of time, where he can't be made to testify on anything, can't be prosecuted for anything. That's bad enough. Refer all of this to a special prosecutor at the Justice Department, and nothing will happen between now and the 2024 election. Nothing of significance. Well, that'd be a little slap on the wrist, but that's all that's going to happen. For all of their imperfections, for all of their problems, for all of their sometimes timid approach to doing this, let the House Oversight Committee, let the House Ways and Means Committee, let the House Judiciary Committee keep moving forward. Because what they're doing is uncovering more on their own than what would ever happen if this matter were referred over to the Justice Department. And frankly, there are Republicans on Capitol Hill, and most of them are in the Senate, by the way, who want this thing referred over to the Justice Department so they don't have to deal with it. They know where this is going, by the way. They absolutely know where this is going. This is headed for a trial in the U.S. Senate. Okay? The House is going to vote one or more articles of impeachment out. Before it is said and done, sometime this fall, the U.S. House of Representatives, the Judiciary Committee is going to draft and pass out articles of impeachment. The House is going to vote on one or more articles of impeachment, and this thing is going to go over to the U.S. Senate. Okay? Now, like I said, do I expect that the Senate will convict Joe Biden on this? Probably not, because there are most certainly enough Democrats and a handful of, frankly, weenie rhino Republicans that don't want to do this. They don't want to do the right thing here. It's obvious to anybody looking at this, Joe Biden is a corrupt SOB. Okay? He ought to be removed from office. You've got a clear-cut case of bribery. you've got a clear-cut case of access selling. Okay? He ought to be removed. And I'm not saying that because I don't like Joe Biden's politics. I don't like Joe Biden's politics. But there are Democrats who've been in office before. I didn't like their politics, but I didn't think they ought to be removed. No, Joe Biden needs to be removed. Period. End of discussion. He needs to be impeached in the House, convicted in the Senate, and forced to leave the presidency. That's what ought to happen. Whether it does or not is a whole other issue. So there's that one court. On the other side of it, you have the court of public opinion. And that is slowly but surely turning against Joe Biden and his administration. Now, what happens to Joe Biden politically on one side is a whole other issue. What happens to him in the court of public opinion may be more important than what happens to him in the court of Congress. Okay? And here's what I'm getting at. Devon Archer's testimony on Capitol Hill, Devon Archer's interview with Tucker Carlson, more and more information coming out as the weeks go by. I've been saying this now for weeks in my videos and on live streams. The Democratic Party wants somebody other than Joe Biden. I mean, lay aside the corruption angle in all of this, okay? Which is bad enough. But the Democrats want to get somebody else. Either they don't like Joe Biden because of his age, they don't like him because of his mental issues, and I'm just putting that diplomatically. They don't like his chances against Donald Trump. They don't like whatever about him. They want somebody else, which, keep in mind, and I've said this for years, Joe Biden has never been universally loved in the Democratic Party. In his heyday, Bill Clinton was universally loved in the Democratic Party. He was a scoundrel, but he was their scoundrel. Barack Obama was universally loved in the Democratic Party. He was their guy, the first black president in American history, and he was a Democrat. Loved in the Democratic Party. Joe Biden's never had that kind of affection among his fellow Democrats. Yeah, he's a good party guy, and yeah, he'll go out and give a speech, and yeah, he'll do whatever, but Joe's never had that kind of affection and love. Believe me, they'll throw Joe Biden under the bus as fast as they possibly can. And what's happening with every day that goes by and more news is coming out is more the ratcheting of the pressure up on party apparatchiks, poobahs, bigwigs inside the Democratic Party to say, look, we got to find a way to get this guy off the ticket. Because if he goes head to head with Donald Trump right now, he'll lose. And if they're not completely sure he wouldn't lose, they're not completely sure that he could do it twice, that Joe Biden could win back-to-back elections. Well, and that's a legitimate question too, Millicent. Will they do it? I mean, yeah, he is a useful puppet. Sit there, sign executive orders that we draft for you, sign legislation we get to you, just be the useful idiot. It's possible. But can you get him past the next election? I think that's the $1 million question. I mean, if it were an issue, Millicent, that he didn't have to face another election, I think you're right. I don't think the Democrats try and get rid of him. But they know they've got to run the gauntlet again. They've got to get him past another presidential election. And worse yet, they've got to do it against a very motivated Donald Trump. Can they pull it off twice? Can they get this decrepit, depraved excuse of a Democrat across the finish line twice? That's the $1 million question. So it's like, yeah, he's a useful idiot. Yeah, we don't know if we can get him across the finish line. I don't, I think personally, I really genuinely do, that before December 31st, Joe Biden is going to announce he's changed his mind. He's not running for re-election. He'll come up with some excuse. I recognize that my age might be an issue. I want to spend time with Jill the last years of my life, my family, my kids, my grandkids, whatever excuse he's going to come up with. He's going to find a way to say, I'm bowing out of this thing. Because, and if you wonder why I'm thinking that, and although I don't have any articles pulled up to discuss it, Gavin Newsom's hanging out there in the breeze. Do you guys hear about the fact that Gavin Newsom's going to debate Ron DeSantis in November? Fox News is going to host it, and Sean Hannity's going to moderate the thing. Oh yeah, he's leading big time, dear. Yeah, matter of fact, let me do something real fast. Fortunately, it doesn't require any audio, so this will be real easy for me to do for you. I just love it when my audience asks me questions like this, which, by the way, feel free to throw them in, by the way. Love to have them. But yeah, Millicent, let me show you something. Y'all know. Yeah, I said I love it when my audience asks me questions. Now I'm asking for it. But yeah, let me show you something, dear. How well is Donald Trump doing against his opponents, you might ask? Hang on, let me get this thing pulled up real fast. Yeah. Yeah, here's the one I want. Here it is. Yeah. How's Donald Trump doing? This is how well he's doing. See if I can make. There we go. That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah. This is how he's doing. If you take the average of every poll out there, Millicent, Donald Trump's got a 35-point lead. I mean, if you took everybody else, Ramaswamy, Pence, Haley, Scott, everybody, and gave all that to DeSantis, DeSantis still can't catch him. That's how well Trump's doing right now. So yeah, I don't, there's a lot of angles to this story, but can they, can the Democrats really afford to take the chance of another election against Donald Trump? Yeah, he doing pretty good. The boy's doing pretty good. Oh goodness. So yeah, that's Big Daddy Devon and the Archers. That story has got so many angles. Which, by the way, I really do recommend go out to Tucker Carlson's Twitter page. That interview with Devon Archer runs a little over an hour. Pop in your earbuds, listen to it. Say what you want to about Tucker Carlson, but he does an absolutely fantastic interview. He is really genuinely one of the best interviewers in the business. It was not confrontational. It wasn't mean-spirited. It was two mature men having a mature conversation about mature subjects. It was really very well done. The atmosphere didn't feel heavy. Even though they were talking about some very important subjects, it just felt like, it's like two good old boys standing out by the back fence. One's on either side, and each of them got a cup of coffee in their hands. They're just sipping coffee and shooting the breeze. That's what it felt like. And, I give Tucker Carlson a ton of credit for all of that. So, yeah. So, I need a second here. I'm going to start pulling up some other links to different stories that went on this week. And so, well, since we brought up the subject of college football, if you are watching this live stream right now and you have a favorite college football team, put it in chat. I want to see what your all's taste in college football is like. Be very, very interested to see. Very interested to see what everybody's taste is like out there. So, I mean, y'all know where I'm at. I'm a Marshall University fan, so that's me. But be curious to know what you guys like as far as college football, and then I can sit here and just bust on you and make fun of your choice. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that to anybody. And Millicent, if you want to tell us who your favorite Australian lingerie football team is, I'm very curious to know that one. Truly, my dear, I'm very curious to know who your favorite, Australian lingerie football team is. So if you got something to say about that, by all means, chime in on it. And yeah, flagrant. If you're wondering what we're talking about, it turns out that, among the many reasons to like the country and continent of Australia, they have something called Australian lingerie football. I'll leave it to you to look that up. So you can do that on your own time, dude. Flagrant's like, what? Millicent's like, I've never heard of this before. Oh, don't you sit there and say something like that. We know you watch faithfully every week your favorite team out there for Australian lingerie football. That's all I'm saying. So don't give us that stuff. Don't give us that. Whatever. What? Robert's like, huh? What? Wait. I just woke up. What did you say? Lingerie? Football? What? Hey, I do what I do to make sure I keep it interesting for my audience. That's all I'm saying. Oh, I love you guys. I absolutely love you guys. You're awesome. Just pulling up. He's like, what? I Flagrant's like, stir the stairwell. Oh, jeez. Oh, God. It's awful. No, Flagrant, we're not trying to kill you. We're not trying to kill you while you're driving. Bless your heart. Uh, oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm just pulling up some stuff. For those of you who may be tuning in, it's 11:30 a.m. on the East Coast. My name is Brian Trippett. This is Front Porch Brunch. And I'm just pulling up some links right now to another news story that's the second biggest news story of the week, which coincidentally just happened to fall right immediately after uh, the Devon Archer stuff comes out. Funny how that happens. Yeah, very funny how that happens. Kind of amazing that way. Yep, kind of amazing. So, let me see what else have I got here. Oh yeah, this is a good article too. I want to put this one in. So yeah, I mean, laying aside the very now interested parties that are looking up Australian lingerie football. Hopefully not while you're driving. No, Flagrant. We're not gonna get you killed, dude. Just get pull over somewhere and then you can get on your browser and check it out. So don't want anybody dying because of my live stream. I love it. I love all of y'all. So, but yeah, he got that going on, which is kind of funny, very funny indeed. So, yeah, okay, I think I've got enough to get a discussion started here. So, Donald Trump gets indicted again. It is amazing to me. I don't know how this man does it. And I mean that in all sincerity. I genuinely do not know. Had it been me and everything that I were going through right now, I would have said, screw it. I'm done. I'm dropping out of the race. I'm not going to get into it anymore. I'm done. I've served. I've tried to do the best I could. And, I'm out. Yet Donald Trump stays in. And Donald Trump is doing his best in spite of legal opposition. And so no sooner did Devon Archer give his testimony than it gets announced that Donald Trump had to report to a federal courthouse Thursday to hear charges brought against him by Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, out of Washington, D.C., and hear new accusations made against him over old things. So that starts us on our first headline in this segment discussing the Trump indictment. So we go to the UK Daily Mail. Donald Trump indicted for the third time. Ex-president hit with 4 charges, including conspiracy to defraud the government and obstruct the electoral count for trying to overturn the 2020 election. Now, this may be one of those moments in history when somebody crossed a bridge once too far. And if you are wondering what I am talking about, it gets down to this. Alvin Bragg brings some charges up in New York City. Okay. Jack Smith brings charges in Miami related to the Mar-a-Lago document raid. Okay. This one is a bridge too far for a lot of reasons. One, I think the American public is looking at what's going on with Donald Trump, and they're coming to the conclusion, okay, do it once might have some validity. Twice, that's a bit of a coincidence. 3 times, there's something going on here. The American people can see this for what it is. It's persecution. Pure and simple, it's persecution. They know what's going on. They never thought it would ever happen in America. They know exactly what's being done here. Donald Trump is being persecuted by his political opponent. If Donald Trump were the average citizen, okay, people might not pay attention to this the way they are right now. But honestly, Donald Trump is not the average citizen. And he's definitely not anybody else except this. He's a former president of the United States, and he is the leading contender for his party's nomination to seek the presidency again. And that is making the scrutiny on this whole thing even more extraordinary. Do you know, I saw a stat, and if I could pull it up real quick, if I could find it real fast, I'd pull it up. Donald Trump has been handed down about, I think the stat was 50 or 60 individual counts, totaling, if convicted on all of it, if he were convicted on all of it, 641 years in jail. Let me say that again. If Donald Trump, between the charges in New York City, the charges in Miami, and the charges currently in Washington, D.C., if he were convicted on every count and got the maximum sentence that each charge brings, the man would be in jail for the next 641 years of his life. The latest round of stuff that was brought in Washington, D.C. would get him at a minimum 55 years. Unbe-flippin'-believable. In other words, you're going to go to jail and you're going to die there. The American people are coming around. I think they were coming around to it the first time. But now it's just overkill. And the other thing about this, as to why it is a bridge too far, Jack Smith doesn't realize what he's done here. Let me show you what specifically Donald Trump is being charged with. This is from an article I found at the Federalist. It's a great article, by the way. And I really recommend you go look at it. It's written by a fellow named Will Scharf. The headline of the article is 6 ways that Jack Smith's latest indictment is legally flawed and politically shady. Now, I want to go into the article just a little bit and show you what Trump's being charged with. And this is directly from the article. Smith's indictment contains 4 counts against Trump. The first, brought under 18 USC Section 371 alleges that Trump conspired to defraud the United States, quote, by using knowingly false claims of election fraud to obstruct the federal government function by which those results are collected, counted, and certified. Counts 2 and 3 allege conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding and the actual or attempted obstruction of an official proceeding, both in violation of subsections of 18 USC Section 1512. The fourth count alleges that Trump committed a conspiracy against rights by knowingly conspiring to deprive Americans of their right to vote and have their vote counted in violation of 18 USC Section 241. Now, that's a lot of legal jargon and a lot of citation of U.S. code. Now, I grant you that. But the reason that I say that Jack Smith has opened himself up for a big problem here, he's basing these 4 counts on what happened on the day of the 2020 election and the days following the 2020 election, all the way up to the day of and including January 6th. Now, I'm going to say something's probably going to get me in trouble here with the lords of YouTube, but hey, you guys said we could talk about it, so now I'm going to say it. There are questions about the appropriateness and the, shall we say, straightforwardness of the 2020 election. Shocking, I know. But people have problems with how that election was administered. And they know it. But nobody would ever talk about it. Or let me rephrase that. No court would let a trial go forward to discuss it. More often than not, in every courtroom around the country leading up to January the 6th, the courts would just snuff it out by saying, well, you might be bringing a suit, but you have no standing in this. You don't have standing. Or the doctrine of latches, or whatever legal document or argument was brought forward, nobody could talk about this. Nobody could get into it. Nobody could discuss it. Well, now you've brought an indictment against Donald Trump because of what he said related to the 2020 election and how he supposedly tried to overturn the results of the election during the electoral count. Now, I'm no lawyer, but common sense tells me that means, as part of his defense, he gets to bring up everything that happened on election day. He gets to bring up everything that happened after election day in 2020. He gets to point out every shady appearing action post-election day 2020 that led him to believe that the election was fraudulent or stolen or rigged, or whatever word you want to use to apply to what Donald Trump thought about the 2020 election. Finally, if this thing goes to a full trial, his lawyers will get to lay out the case of what happened. And even if you don't want to get into all of that, there is one thing in this whole 4-count indictment that is the overwhelming point. Donald Trump, like every other American, has the right to political free speech. Let me say that again. Donald Trump, like every other American, has the right to political free speech. If Donald Trump wants to get up and say this election was stolen, guess what? That's protected by the First Amendment. If Donald Trump wants to get up and tweet or Truth Social or Getter or whatever platform he wants to be on and say this election was rigged, that's his right to do it on the First Amendment. For Jack Smith to try and prosecute Donald Trump for all this is not only damaging against Mr. Trump personally, but it has a chilling effect on the whole country nationally, because Jack Smith is trying to say to everybody, don't you contest the results of an election. When we say this election was administered fair and square and clean and above board, and it's as pure as the driven snow, you're not allowed to contest it. Because if you do, that's an action against the government, and we don't like that. He's trying to deny 330 million people their rights to free speech, which, by the way, now I'm getting on my soapbox. I'm getting on a roll. Y'all can tell I'm getting wound up. By the way, I want to know when Jack Smith is going to bring a case against Barbara Boxer for 2004 when she protested the results of the election. I want to know when Jack Smith is going to bring indictments or counts against Democrat politicians in 2017 when they were contesting the results of the presidential election. I mean, how far back do we want to go here? I mean, if Jack Smith wants a case to prosecute, I can give him all kinds of examples of things he ought to go after and people he ought to go after. Why? Because, hey, if you're going to sit there and make the argument that contesting the results of an election, even up to the day of the electoral count before the Congress, is wrong, I can point you to a ton of Democrat politicians that did just that. So, Jackie boy, get your pencil out and get your pad of paper, and I'll just give you names. I'll name names all day long, brother. Let's get into it. They're trying to deny a citizen of the United States their right to free speech under the United States Constitution. And on top of all that, they're doing some shady shite doing it. Take a look at this. This is an article from Breitbart. Headline, Alan Dershowitz. Quote, Jack Smith could be indicted for fraud for admitting Trump's peaceful statement. Article written by Joel Pollack. Harvard Law School professor emeritus Alan Dershowitz says that under his own, quote, fraud standard, special counsel Jack Smith could be indicted for omitting a key portion of then President Donald Trump's speech in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021. The indictment charges Trump with 4 counts, including conspiring to defraud the United States, but in a portion recounting Trump's speech at the Stop the Steal rally, Smith repeats the errors made by the House Democrats in Trump's second impeachment trial. He focuses on Trump's use of the phrase, fight like hell, and omits a sentence highlighted by Trump's defense team. Quote, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Dershowitz told Megyn Kelly on her podcast Friday that by his own standard, Jack Smith could be charged with fraud because his omission of Trump's peaceful rhetoric. Quote, under the indictment itself, Jack Smith could himself be violated. He told a direct lie in this indictment. He purported to describe the speech that President Trump made on January 6th. He left out the key words when Trump said, I want you to demonstrate peacefully and patriotically. You know, a lie by omission under the law can be as serious as a lie of commission. So yeah, Jack. Did you not have your reading glasses on when you were typing up your indictment? What, you somehow forgot those words? No, you left them out. Whether you did it on purpose or whether you did it on accident is not the issue. You are trying to shade the comments of the former president in such a way that it makes it look like he's trying to incite riot and trying to stop the government from being able to count the electoral votes, which, by the way, he never wanted to do that. All he wanted to make sure was that the electoral votes that were counted were the right ones, and they reflected the correct results of the election. Nothing more. You may not agree with it. You may not like it. You may think Trump's a dirtbag. You might think Trump's the Antichrist. But guess what? Trump has the right under freedom of speech to do that. He has the right to protest the results of the electoral count. So yeah, you want to go here? You really want to go here? Okay. You want to open the door to a discussion of the 2020 election? Here it comes. Here it comes, baby. Because you're going to get it with both barrels. Because if I were Trump's defense team, I would bring up every stinking funny, weird incident that happened the day of the election, the days after the election. I'd bring up everything between Election Day and January 6th. And I'd definitely bring up the events of January 6th. So yeah, go ahead, Jack. Go ahead. Go ahead and indict on that stuff. I'm telling you right now, and I'm not the only person that thinks this, if this goes up to the Supreme Court, they're going to laugh Jack Smith right out of the courtroom, which, by the way, they've done that once before. You might have heard, and if you haven't, I'll tell you about it. Some years ago, Jack Smith, as part of his duties as special prosecutor in the Justice Department, brought an indictment against former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell. McDonnell got convicted. McDonnell appealed his conviction all the way up to the Supreme Court. You know what happened? In a unanimous 9-0 ruling, the court overturned McDonnell's conviction and basically spanked Jack Smith for a shoddy prosecution. So yeah, if this thing gets up to the Supreme Court, I'm not guaranteeing what's going to happen, but it wouldn't shock me if the Supreme Court says this is crazy. You can't deny this man his rights to free speech. You may not like his speech, you may not like him, but you can't deny him his rights. And it wouldn't surprise me if some liberals join in on that one. Sotomayor, Kagan, or the new one, Ketanji Jackson Brown. Wouldn't surprise me at all. So yeah, it's been a crazy week for news. Just crazy. Oh, it's about 11:52 on Saturday morning. Now, very late morning, by the way. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. And I want to bring up one more item. And we're going to put this one under the heading of HodgePodge Stew. This one's just priceless. I heard this the other day, and I got to give a shout out to Aaron and April Imholt of Steel Toe Morning Show, which, by the way, if you ever get the chance to listen to those cats, I really recommend it to you. Because, man, you talk about two very funny individuals. They are genuinely
One.
They really are. And, oh, gosh. Don't worry, Millicent. We're about done, darling. I mean, if you need to go to bed, honey, go to bed. I mean, I love you, and I'm glad you're here. But if you need to go to sleep, go to sleep. I love you. Well, thank you for being here. But God, honey, I promise I'm just about done. I promise. This one falls under the heading of HodgePodge Stew. Now, for those of you who watch this or are watching this for the first time, HodgePodge Stew are those news stories that maybe they're not the big news items of the week, but we find them funny enough or interesting enough to bring them on here. The Reverend Al Sharpton, a contributor at MSNBC and a longtime activist in the Democratic Party, was giving his thoughts on the indictment of Donald Trump. And Sharpton let go with probably one of the best comments that I have heard thus far in all of this. And this ought to help everybody understand what it is that we're facing here in America. Listen to this.
One day, our children's children will read American history. And can you imagine our reading that James Madison or Thomas Jefferson tried to overthrow the government so they could stay in power? That's what we're looking at. We're looking at American history.
Can you imagine If our children read that James Madison and Thomas Jefferson tried to overthrow the government, Reverend Sharpton, may I respectfully remind you that Thomas Jefferson participated in not one, but 2 revolutions in his lifetime? He's known most famously for his participation in the American Revolution by writing our Declaration of Independence, by being branded a traitor, by participating as an ambassador on behalf of his rebellious country to a European power. But not only did Jefferson do all that, Mr. Sharpton, he encouraged and supported the French Revolution. Now, I say that we talk about, what we're facing here in America. I'm sorry, Reverend Sharpton's comments are proof that we're fighting a bunch of dummies. They're loud dummies, and they are a minority, but they're still dummies. Can you believe if our children read that James Madison and Thomas Jefferson tried to overthrow the government? Shocking, Reverend Sharpton, but you wouldn't be sitting where you are if they hadn't tried to overthrow the government, you moron. Yeah, exactly. Proof that Western education systems are broken. Unbelievable, big dummy, to quote Fred G. Sanford. And the G stands for got more brains than you do, Sharpton. Unbelievable. Well, it is almost 12 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm going to wind this down, to everyone's benefit, because I know people got lives to live, and some people need to get some sleep. Yeah. True point, my dear. So yeah, it's about 12 o'clock Eastern here on the coast. My name is Brian Trippett. This is Front Porch Brunch. As always, I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Robert, Millicent, Flagrant. By the way, Flagrant, if you're out there, are you going to be live streaming tonight? If you are, give me a message in chat. Are you and Crash going to be doing your live stream tonight? Say 7:30 Eastern. If you can't do it, you're driving or whatever, don't risk life and limb answering that question. But if you are, I want to give you a plug while we're here. If they're not, keep an eye on the channel for Flagrant Triggers. He and his good buddy and my good buddy Crash Mondo do a live stream usually on Saturday nights around 7 or 7:30 Eastern, called the Clout Goblins, and they get into news items much like I do, and they talk about them in their own unique and humorous way. They are a couple of genuinely good cats, so keep an eye on his channel tonight. He might be doing a live stream around 7 or 7:30 Eastern. But for everybody who's been here this morning, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm so glad you did. We'll be back this coming week with more videos. And this Thursday night, this gives me the chance to start talking about it. I'm going to have a young man on my interview program called Chatting on the Porch. His name is Christian Watson. I got introduced to him through Daniel and Brentley of Dangerous Rhetoric. And I am dying to have a conversation with this guy because he is, I think, one of the most articulate proponents of political philosophy and culture in general that we're going to get the chance to hear over the next 10 to 15 to 20, 25, however long, he chooses to pontificate about American society and culture in general. I am really looking forward to this. His name is Christian Watson. He'll be on my channel this Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern. The program is called Chatting on the Porch. I'm going to start putting out advertisements about it this week, today actually. So please stop by this Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern on my channel. We'll be on YouTube. We'll be on Rumble. We'll be on Twitter. And I am genuinely looking forward to having this young man on. Just a genuinely good guy. So for everybody who stopped by, thank you so much for being here. Love all of you. Welsh Republic, Millicent, Robert, Flagrant, everybody who's going to be watching this later on. We'll be back next Saturday morning around 10:30 a.m. And I want to thank all of you guys. You have helped me grow this channel. It's growing, and we're getting closer and closer to a lot of personal goals that I have for the channel. And if it weren't for you guys spreading the word, spreading the love, you do not just laugh manically on your live stream all the time. Not manically. You do laugh all the time, but not manically. But anyway, yeah, Robert, you take care too. Everybody have a good weekend. But no, for all of you guys out there, thank you for everything that you're doing to help support this channel. I love all of you guys. We'll be back next Saturday morning, 10:30 Eastern. In the meanwhile, go out, have yourself a great weekend, and remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." We'll see you next time, folks.